do it. I'm not sure I can tell you since I managed to get signed in. The other thing is we were going to have this week Mr. Rodriguez do a presentation, but unfortunately he had a death in the family, and so I put together this presentation. I think you'll find it interesting. I think it'll be fun for us all. But the three of us, Ms. Wood, myself, and Mr. Rodriguez, are working on coming up a list of all the topics we're going to cover and getting it all laid out on the calendar so that you guys know what's coming and so that we also are organized. So anyway, that announcement. I think, so make sure you have your chat window open and ready to answer questions or ask questions. I'm going to be looking at that primarily for answers. If you do want to speak, that's okay too, but just want to try to keep the background noise to a minimum. So if you don't need to talk or whatever, you can mute yourself. And also, for those of you who have done this before, sometimes the audio is a little choppy on the coming straight out of the computer. It kind of depends on the bandwidth, but if you sign in, if you use the phone number and like listen in from your phone, then you can avoid some of the choppiness of the audio. You'll hear the audio just like you would on a phone. So with all that, I think I'm going to just go ahead and ask Ms. Wood to start recording. The last two presentations that we did, I have not gotten those uploaded to YouTube yet. I started to and ran into some snags, but those should be up soon. So anyway, why don't you go ahead and start recording, Ms. Wood? Okay, so today is titled Cyber Threat Vocabulary. Here's some notes about how to participate. Some of this I already covered, but try to keep yourself muted if you can to keep out background noise, and use the chat window to answer and ask questions. Okay, the topic here is going to be discussing the vocabulary. I'm saying the vocabulary of cyber threats, but really kind of cover different types of cyber threats and give you just an introduction. The topics are straight from the CyberPatriot site. There's a good starting point there. So I'm going to click here and show you that site so you can find these yourself. Okay. So hopefully you've all seen the US Cyber Patriots. I think you had to sign in or whatever, but this page right here, I kind of use for topics the threats here on the threats and basic defenses list. They have links here. Some of these links are good, some are not so good, but you can always Google these things. But these are the threats that really kind of make out a pretty good coverage of the types of cyber threats that are out there. So I'm going to cover those. How do you find this page? Well, it's under, you go competition, there's training materials, and just if you look here, just training modules. Hopefully you've all seen these training modules. These are, actual presentations you can click on. I know some of the advanced cyber patriots have used these during competitions to get ideas. Training modules, there's information, build your own practice images. So we've covered a lot of that for some of you, but I went to the additional resources tab or page, and that's also here, and that's where this list is. There's some really good stuff on how the internet works. I almost jumped into that, and I was like, I thought it may be more interesting to jump into the cyber threats. So we're going to cover that. All right. Okay, so there's the same list. I didn't think we'd have time to cover spyware and Trojans, so that was the bottom of the list, so I'm not going to cover that today. All right, botnets. I think for those of you who participated last time, we talked a little bit about botnets, but maybe this is a chance for a review for those. So Here's a question out to the group. What is a bot? Go ahead and use your chat window and throw out some ideas of what you think that is. And then, well, why is it called a bot? I'm looking at the chat window. I don't see any responses yet. Okay, Lando had a good answer there. A bot is a computer not controlled by a person. That's good. Yeah, and Julie said Google it. But any other ideas out there? AI, artificial intelligence. In the case of cyber threats, it is not artificial intelligence generally. Okay. Well, bot, of course, is short for robot. And okay, there's Yuli has made a comment, or looks like a cut and paste. A network of private computers infected with malicious software. Isaac's got a funny one about the larva of the bot fly. But anyway, so bot is short for robot. And actually, bots used to be harmless in the beginning, and in some cases they still are. I think many of you have used social media like Twitter, and there are bots out on Twitter that are generating automatic posts based on they see something and they respond to it. So it's like a computer that's monitoring something and responds. That's the original thing of a bot. So it's out there, and that is that there's computers that are sort of automatically responding or acting on things. And we did see from Yuli cutting and pasting from Google what makes up a botnet, and that is this idea that you have a net of computers that are under somebody's control, or maybe the control of another computer, and that's all that can be used for an attack. All right, what's a common use of a botnet? Anyone? Okay, Lando's got one. Botnets are used to spam computers or domains. So, okay, so why would somebody spam? Anyone have an answer on that one? Okay, that was to get personal info. This says to shut down a server. Now, that may have been just a general common use of botnet. That I would agree with that. What about spam? What's the use of spam? Does anybody get spam? TikTok to annoy people. Yeah, sure, it annoys. Clickbait. Masubi. Okay. All right, I'm going to give a couple more answers, and then I'm going to give you the answer. I think you guys should know this. It's pretty basic. All right, I'll give you the answer. So spam, of course, is it's email that people are receiving, and whether it's a malicious spam or it's trying to like sell you something like medicines or Viagra or whatever, it's somebody's making money off of it. They're trying to make money. So the spammers, they just take advantage of the fact that they can send out volumes and volumes of email, maybe to 10 million people. And if only 100 people respond and it costs them, 10 minutes to send out 10 million emails and they got $100, hey, they're $100 richer than they were yesterday. So, the bar is pretty low for people sending out spam. But of course, everyone hates spam, so they try to stop them. But if you can use a botnet to take over other people's computers, then you can do spam using there. So I'm going to click on this link here. I like the pictures in this one, so I'm going to open it up. So the main picture is down here a little bit farther. Oh, where'd it go? I probably put the wrong link in. Well, there's a description of what a botnet is. I'll just do a quick Google here. So here's an example of an attack on a target, right? So you have some master control server, and this is the bad guys. And what they're doing is using their computers, they're controlling another set of servers that are out controlling these zombies. And the idea is that somebody's computer, wherever they are in the world, they don't have their patches up to date, they don't have an antivirus program, they click on a link, they do whatever, their computer gets taken over. They don't even know that it's taken over many times. All they're doing is just wondering why their computer's so slow. And the idea is that without having your defenses up, maybe you're a cyber patriot. You're going to have your computers. You're going to have antivirus. You're going to know what to do. But you know what? Your crazy old aunt or uncle or whatever, they may not. They probably have a password that's password. Whatever. Their systems are going to get taken over, and then they can be used for attacks. And we'll keep going on the threat vocabulary, and then we'll cover some of these other topics. Okay, I'll just follow the order here. This is actually kind of a complex topic. It's called the buffer overflow. Does anybody know what a buffer overflow is without just doing a cut and paste from Google? Is there anybody that has an answer, or they think they have an answer? Daniel says too much. So it is an overflow, too much of something. Overflow of a buffer. Buffer overflows are used by hackers, and basically it's a weakness in software. How many people have written any software in either Java or any other programming language? Go ahead and put it in the chat if you've done that. I know we had a few. Maya has. Good. Yep. Daniel, Melina. Okay. Java and Python. Good. So the classic programming language that has had problems with buffer overflows is C++. Anybody write any C++ or C language? Okay, I see one from Lando. Okay, so C++ was a great language, and it still is in many ways, but it had a big problem, and that is it had very much flexibility. And I'm going to go click to a link to show you something here, another image here on the link. So this is an example of buffer overflow problems. Okay. So here, this image right here, it says running normal and after attack. All right. What these little blocks represent are actually blocks of memory inside the computer. So when you buy a computer and you get, I'm not talking about the hard drive, that's a form of memory, but that's a hard disk. This is the running memory, or the RAM memory. But whenever you're running a program, the program needs to run, be stored somewhere in the memory bank. So there's basically an outlay of all the memory. You have it broken up into different places. You have program instructions, that's like for running programs. You have parts that's just data. This is dynamic memory. And this is kind of a typical thing where you call a procedure and there's a return address. And so it goes to the program instructions, it does this thing, and then it comes back this way to the return address. Well, after there's been a buffer overflow attack, and that is using a weakness in a program, in the way someone wrote their program, what happens is they take And there's still the regular program instructions data. What happens is in this heap, this is the dynamic memory, they manage to trick your program to put some instructions into this area, which is normally protected. And what happens is that allows then this malicious code to execute and possibly take over your computer. And then also you see like, so the procedure call causes an overflow. The return address is modified, so things are changed, and you're hacking the memory of the computer, and you're causing things to move around. Let's look at the other link here. This is a more basic example, and it actually gives you some demonstration. So, computers store everything in bytes. They're basically, each character represents a byte. So this is an example of when you're trying to store the word username 12 into a thing that has only 8 bytes. And what happens is if the computer software is not smart enough, it'll write extra 2 bytes into memory that is outside of its control. So you write username 12 in, username goes in the right place, but then this 12 gets written into somewhere else. And it's that writing the memory into those other areas that's dangerous. This is an example. This is C, and it's using a function called string copy. And it's saying, okay, I'm going to have a thing called username 12, and the destination, this is an array that is 7 characters long, or 7 bytes, which is like roughly, or 8 bytes, which is roughly 8 characters. But since the username 12 has 12 characters, so you copy the username from the source to the destination, and there's 2 bytes left over, and then that goes into some part of memory that is out of your control. So this is actually an example of causing a buffer overflow on purpose. Now, of course, what you're writing is just a 112. That's not malicious, but malicious programmers would put in basically a whole bunch of strings of characters that becomes another program that you can execute the program. So that's the danger. Now, so I kind of answered this question, but so what? I'll just answer it out loud. What does a buffer overflow have to do with hacking? Well, basically, it's a weakness that is exploited in order to break into systems. How can you prevent buffer overflows? Anyone have a question? Actually, while you're thinking, oh, go ahead.
Landon's question is, how would you even defend against that if it's written into the program itself?
Right. So, first of all, the idea is that that was an example of a purposeful buffer overflow problem. The thing is like if you're downloading a program from the internet and you're installing it, hopefully you know what you're downloading and installing, and you're not, because if they have control of you installing some software, they already have control of the software. Where they exploit these problems is someone who writes a program like a web program, and then a hacker knows that if they can send a certain set of characters into like the web browser, that it can cause the program to crash, and or it can cause this buffer overflow to happen. They do that by reverse engineering programs. They take a look, and they discover these things secretively. So typically it's not on purpose, meaning it's on purpose to exploit it, but it's not on purpose to make the mistake. So in this example, which I was showing you earlier, that obviously was, the program was written, unless the guy kind of messed up the count. This is kind of just a perfect example of doing it. But normally, say this would be like user input, and you would say, please enter your username, maximum 12 characters, or 8 characters, or whatever. And then someone puts in extra characters. If your program didn't check for that, then you could end up with a situation of a buffer overflow. So anyone, how do you prevent buffer overflows? You're the good programmer. You're writing a program. What do you do? How do you prevent it if you're writing in C++ or C? Anyone? I'll take any idea out there. Okay, there was a really good answer from Ajith. Make sure you add a check for the amount of characters from users' input. That is an example. And Ms. Wood, thank you. That was also. And what it is there's basically, you have to be really mindful of when you're writing these programs of these kind of weaknesses and avoid them. So the string copy in C and C++ is notoriously bad for that problem because it allows a lot of flexibility, but then it can cause things up. So, those were both good answers, basically doing the job right. Believe it or not, if you use a program like Java, Java limits you and prevents you from doing a lot of these things just in the language. So that's a reason why a lot of users like Java. And it's a safer kind of programming language. So you tend to find these issues in older programs, ones written and running for a long time, rather than the newer ones. But it's still a risk, and it is probably the tool in the hacker's toolbox for breaking into software systems. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next one. Denial of service attack. All right, so somebody already mentioned denial of service earlier that you could use a botnet for. Who can give a description in their own words of what a denial of service attack is? Okay, Lando was a good one. When you flood a website with more traffic than it can handle. Ajit, an overload of packets into a server that it's intended to crash it. Yeah, so these are all reasons that, but what's, it's not necessarily just that though. Denial of service is a denial of something. Who are they denying the service from? Yeah, the consumer, the people that want to access the website, right? Yeah, but it could be anything. I mean, here an example of a denial of service attack was done against a company that runs it's the domain name server, or it's one of many, but of course there's a big company out there that provides the domain name services. That's the way you translate web addresses like google.com into an IP address that the computer will use. Well, instead of attacking Google, what they did was they attacked the dynamic name service. So it's a denial of service. You flood one thing and you prevent someone from getting access to it. If you can think of offensive cyber attacks, like if you imagine a war or something like that, you may want all the bad guys' computers to stop being responsive or to get really slow. All of a sudden, they're trying to contact the general or whatever, and they can't because their network is flooded, their email server is flooded, whatever. So a denial of service is it's about all those things. Here's a good one. Why are they so hard to stop? Anybody can answer that one? So one was they were sent in from proxies. And what that means is that they're coming in from some other site. So you don't know where they're coming from, you can say like, well, like I don't even know who's attacking me. Servers have a limit. That's good because you know, you overwhelm a server. I'm glad you guys are giving some answers. I'm gonna give an example of one. So to the server that's receiving, that's getting overwhelmed, usually it's something they would normally get, like a website. When someone clicks like, oh, I want to click on this link, you know, what that does is it causes the computer to, you know, make a connection and show you the web page, right? So, well, what happens is clicking on a link, that could be anybody, right? So if you get a random link being clicked on by someone from, you know, the middle of the country, how do you know that's not a bot? Or you don't. All you know is, what about all the people that are legitimately trying to get into their site? They can't, but I bet they're clicking. I don't know if you've ever been to a site that wasn't responding. I kept clicking. I'm like, keep clicking. You know, what's going on? It's taking forever. So there's no way to tell that I'm not one of the bad guys that's attacking. So that's why it's so hard to stop. And thank you, Isaac. That was a really good answer. So, okay, I'm going to move on to the next one. Malware. Anybody know what mal means in Latin? Bad. All right, good answer. Lando got it first, but Bill came in second. Thank you. So it's badware. Obviously, ware is related to software, so it's like bad software. Now, it turns out, depending on who's defining malware, there's different definitions. But what are some malware types? Anybody want to throw something out? You can Google it if you want. Okay, a keylogger that is considered something. That's Trojan virus. So viruses and keyloggers, those are both types of malware. You know, someone who's a private investigator might not consider a keylogger malware because they're useful for them to find out what other people are doing. But so typically malware is considered different from a virus or a Trojan horse because those we consider viruses, and malware was kind of meant to be something not quite as bad. Like it's bad, but you know, in fact, original malware stuff was like adware. I'm going to just open up this Ars Technica one. This is the one. It's from 2004. Believe it or not, I think that's one of the links on the site from the CyberPatriot site, and they have a pretty good list. So adware, you know, I don't know if you've ever been on a program. It has all these random pop-ups. I think I got a bunch for one of my images, the Windows 3 hacked. I got a bunch of adware installed. So a lot of pop-ups that said, oh, you need to fix this or that. So adware, it's not really a virus. It's not illegal, but it's just kind of very annoying. Spyware, sending information that you don't want people knowing back to someone. You know, what sometimes, you know, we use things like Gmail, and you know, Gmail presents ads to you by the content that's in some of your emails. So if you think about it, they are using information from you to sell you stuff. So is that spyware? Is it spying on you? Well, if you agree to the terms and conditions, no, it's not spyware. Same thing for, you know, things like Facebook, and I'm sure if they're not doing it now, they will be for all the other social media things. Hijackers. I have a business, I think you guys know, where I help out people with their computers, and hijackers are terrible because people will say, hey, you know, my computer's really slow, and every time I try to use Google, I got a problem. Well, I've removed this one more than once. It's called mysearch.com. So you see up here like mysearch.com, mysearch. So I don't know how it gets installed. Nobody installs that I know of installs mysearch. But basically it is a form of adware that gets installed in your browser that every time you put in a search, it takes it over and says, oh, I have the answer for you. I'll give that to you. So instead of getting the really good answer that you were hoping to get out of Google, you get some junk that this software is peddling. So watch out for that. That's an example of malware. All right. And next one, phishing. Okay. Who's got a good answer for what is phishing? Yeah, social engineering is definitely related to social engineering. Anyone else? Yeah, Nigerian prince. I wouldn't call the Nigerian prince so much, although it is definitely, they're trying to get you on that one. Yeah, the classic example, Rin's got it, is when you get an email that it totally, it looks like the logo, it says everything from a bank or something like Citibank. You know, they basically steal a Citibank email and they put it back and they change the links so that it looks like it's going to Citibank. So it'll be like Citibank dot, and then it'll something other.com, like .a.com or whatever. If you're not looking carefully, it looks like it's real. Okay, so those are all good answers. Spoofing an email, that was from Bill, and Ajit, clickbait. I think he's answering the question, what can happen to you if you fall prey to phishing? Hey, is that Justice? Did you want to say something, or is your, oh, okay. All right. I want to tell you something about, I have a line in here, NG corporate phishing. So, you know, I work at Northrop Grumman, very large corporation. We got lots of users of email. And because of Northrop Grumman is also provides cybersecurity services and is very focused on protecting systems, both for the government and for ourselves, they decided they were going to test the employees. So what they did was they sent out emails to the employees and tried to get them to click on the link. So, you know, they didn't fake to be Citibank, but they took some real examples. For example, they said like, hey, I'm a student, you know, I want to meet you. I'm Northrop Grumman seems like a great place to work. I got your name from so-and-so or whatever. Anyway, what they did was, and this could happen to you, so watch out. If you clicked on the link had a tracker in it, and they figured out which people clicked on the link. And then they did statistics, and they said like, they did education. Don't click on the link, you dummies, or whatever. So it really worked well. And now when you see a suspicious email, I know I have colleagues that go, that looks like one of those fake phishing ones. Did you get this one or whatever? So people are getting wise. But it just goes to show you that even in a corporation where we deal with regular security, that people fall prey to it still. And I think they have no expectation they'll ever get to zero on the number of links that people are clicking on. So anyway, all right, there was mention of rootkits earlier. Somebody said, dang, rootkits, got one last time. So who was that? I saw that in the list. Is that Isaac? So Isaac, what's a rootkit? Okay, well, if Isaac won't answer, can somebody else provide an answer? Bueller? Anyone? It's called a rootkit. Rootkit. Okay. I'm guessing nobody knows what a rootkit is. Even the Googlers out there. Basically, here comes Julie. A rootkit is basically a well-hidden or purposely well-hidden virus or malware or something. So when I talk about, bots taking over people's computers, a lot of times there's a bot running on the computer. It tries to hide itself. It doesn't have like a screen that comes up that says bot running. Do you want to continue? It's not exactly a backdoor. It is when you have any virus, malware, anything could be considered a rootkit. And it's tough to find them because the whole point is they're trying to hide out. The virus programs, antivirus programs are getting better at finding them. They look for the signatures to find them. But I just thought I would show you in Linux, Unix history, kind of where it got its name, root. So as those of you who have been using Linux or been part of the CyberPatriots, they know that the root account is the master, the password. Anyway, and in the early world of Linux, I'm going to log in here to Ubuntu here, Linux, and I got to just launch looking for a command window, terminal window. Well, I went crazy with the clicking. There it is. Okay, so those of you who remember from CyberPatriots, there's like a command like ls and ls minus la. So those commands, right, they give you a listing of files. So if you're looking for a malicious software, you might use the ls command. So the idea behind a rootkit is they would actually replace the ls command with something else that did exactly like an ls command, except that it purposely did not list whatever the bad thing was. So just like now, you can't, if I just do a ls, I won't see these files that have a dot in front of them. That's normal. It would treat an ls like an ls minus l, for example, and you would not see files that had a dot. So another is ps. PS, that's process listing, right? So if you do a PS, it lists all the processes are running. So you might find a sneaky backdoor program that's running, but if it hides itself when you type PS, then it won't be able to find it. So Ashley just asked the question, what do they usually masquerade as, or are they just hidden? Well, actually, sometimes, and I wish I had an example of Windows, but sometimes programs, they actually look like running Windows programs, ones that are typically run in the Windows. So if you ever do a task manager to see the running processes, you'll see a bunch of stuff you probably don't know. Actually, I think I can do that here. Okay, so here's a bunch of processes, right? And of course, I don't know. I mean, is RAVBG64, is that a spyware, or is it? I don't know. I don't necessarily know. But some of these things like SVN host is one you see all the time. These are things that they look like they're legit, they don't say, hacker program. So basically, that's kind of the history, and that's why that. And Isaac said, I think I asked a question: did anyone ever find a rootkit during competition? I would think that maybe that's a thing that you would find in one of the later competitions. That was a good one, Lando. Yes, super secret hacker program. Anyway, I don't remember anyone telling me that they found one, but I suspect that there was some, because there were so many things we couldn't find, so many points we didn't get on the last one. So I think we got to be extra vigilant to look for these kinds of things. So gotten through the presentation, I want to make sure that you guys look once again back to this additional resources. You can look at these links, but this gives you a kind of a good coverage. A lot of the stuff on here is stuff that every cyber patriot should know, or at least know something about. So, please go back and look at that. Also, with Mr. Rodriguez and me, I'll look for more stuff like this to present too, and to provide additional detail and get everyone thinking about it. So I guess I'd like to offer anyone to ask a question at this point. And Ms. Wood, if you had anything you wanted to say too, that's fine.
One of the things that I wanted to mention that I noticed that you were really hitting back home was that USCyberPatriot.org website is amazingly filled with so much information that I know that many of us just really haven't had the opportunity or the time to go through. And now would be the time to do that. Between now and October, you really, as a team, should probably go through the website and break up different parts and say, okay, you take this link, I'll take this link, and just kind of give a little summary or something about what it is about and what could be found there, so that you have a resource and something that is very quick. I don't know if some of you guys have been coming to the meetings on Thursday, but Naseem Bahar was sharing parts of her checklist that she has for Ubuntu that she created all on her own, just from listening to Mr. Bush and listening to other people who had been using Ubuntu. And yes, she's willing to share some of it, but she's also put a lot of time and effort into it and had her own checklists and notes on her own. So that was such a key thing that I took away from the last 2 weeks of just watching her teach the middle school kids, because she really and her team were very diligent about taking very good notes on different resources. So again, really just hitting home that Cyber Patriot website is really very valuable.
Yep. So we could stop the recording now, I think.